Shirota is a quiet, lonely high school boy with no friends. Every day of his life is very boring until one day, while eating lunch alone in a storage room, a girl suddenly walks in, startling him, and he quickly hides. To his surprise, the girl is none other than Takamine, the student council president. She's considered the goddess of the school, perfect in every way, always at the top of the class in both academics and sports. To Shirota's shock, she suddenly starts changing and puts on a bra, leaving him panicked and confused about why she hadn't already been wearing one. Later that day, in class, Shirota can't stop thinking about what had just happened. Just then, the teacher calls his name and hands him his exam paper. Shirota is pleasantly surprised to see that he scored higher than expected, and when it's Takamine's turn to receive her paper, the entire class is shocked since her score isn't perfect this time. Without warning, Takamine suddenly removes her underwear, and everyone around her seems to freeze in time except Shirota, who watches in disbelief. Before he can fully process what's happening, time appears to reverse itself. This time, when the exam papers are handed out, Takamine receives a perfect score. Wanting to know what's really going on, Shirota decides to confront Takamine and tell her what he saw. When she realizes this, Takamine figures out that Shirota must have seen her bare chest in the storage room. However, instead of getting angry, she acts unusually friendly and offers him a drink of water. This only makes Shirota more nervous, and he accidentally spills the water on her, but she quickly dodges it. Feeling bad, Shirota immediately tries to clean up the mess. Takamine, seeing the opportunity, decides it's the perfect time to explain her ability. She casually removes her bra, and time reverses again. This time, the water ends up spilling on her instead. Shirota, completely confused, asks her why she did that. In response, she places his hand on her chest, revealing that her bra is gone. She then explains that her ability is called Eternal Virgin Road, which allows her to undo events whenever she removes her underwear. Curious, Shirota asks where the bra goes, and she simply tells him that it just vanishes. She adds that anyone who has seen her bare chest will retain their memories of what happened before time was reversed. When Shirota asks how she got that ability, Takamine explains that it manifested after a minor incident in her past. Back in 5th grade, during the school's athletic festival, she was the anchor for her team in the relay race. She was supposed to pass the lead runner and finish in first place. However, the bento she had eaten before the race had gone bad, causing stomach pain that slowed her down, and she ended up finishing second. She couldn't accept the outcome. The humiliation overwhelmed her, and in the midst of it, she lost control of her bladder. Out of desperation, she removed her underwear, and that's when her ability activated for the first time, allowing her to reverse time and win the race. Takamine believes her power must have manifested because she's destined to always be number one. Takamine then tells Shirota the reason she shared all of this with him is because she wants him to become her personal assistant, or more specifically, her closet. Since her underwear vanishes every time she uses her ability, she needs someone to carry spare underwear for her at all times, follow her wherever she goes, and help her change when needed. Shirota is completely overwhelmed and thinks the request is insane. He then turns to leave the room, but just then, Takamine trips him, causing him to fall on top of her. She immediately begins to scream, accusing him of pushing her down against her will. Hearing the commotion, other students rush in and pin Shirota to the ground. Even the police arrive at the scene. Realizing he has no choice, Shirota reluctantly agrees to her request and begs her to reverse time. Takamine smiles and happily does so. Afterwards, she gives Shirota his very first job, helping her put on a new pair of underwear. Though embarrassed, Shirota can't refuse and reluctantly agrees. Noticing that he closes his eyes while doing it, Takamine teases him, saying she knows he's only pretending not to look, but deep down, he really wants to, and adds that she's looking forward to having him as her closet. The next day, Shirota wakes up, still in disbelief about what happened yesterday. He then receives a text message from Takamine telling him not to be late. As soon as he arrives at school, Takamine approaches him and instructs him to meet her in the student council room. This makes Shirota nervous, unsure of what to expect. Little does he know, when he arrives, Takamine immediately hands him a bag full of her underwear and tells him that from now on, it's his responsibility to carry the bag with him at all times so that she can use her power whenever and wherever she wants. Each time she uses her ability, he must put her underwear back on immediately, even if they're in the middle of class. Noticing that Shirota is still hesitant about accepting the role, Takamine trips him, causing him to fall to the ground. She then promises that if he accepts the deal, she'll let him experience the continuation of what happened last time, minus calling the police. Shy Shirota quickly stops her, telling her not to joke around. She then smiles and tells him that she hopes he'll agree to do this for her, because even for her, having someone else see her underwear is embarrassing. But she tells herself that maybe it's okay if it's him. Shirota, however, immediately realizes she's trying to manipulate him and confronts her about it, which impresses her with how quickly he notices. He then agrees to the role and takes the bag with him before leaving. Later, while in class, Shirota keeps glancing at Takamine, wondering how he's supposed to know when she plans to use her ability. Just then, the teacher suddenly calls on Takamine and asks her to read a poem from the textbook aloud. As expected, Takamine reads each line flawlessly, impressing all her classmates. When she finishes, a strong gust of wind suddenly blows into the classroom. Takamine looks toward the window, then turns to Shirota and says she's going to redo the reading. Without warning, she starts removing her underwear in front of the entire class. This leaves Shirota completely confused, as her reading was already perfect, so why would she feel the need to use her ability now? Time then rewinds back to the moment the teacher first calls on Takamine. This time, she intentionally delays for a moment and begins reading just as a breeze of wind flows into the classroom. In her mind, she imagines herself dressed in a traditional outfit, reciting poetry in front of an audience. Shirota is left stunned, as she somehow makes her reading even more impressive than before. Afterward, Takamine signals Shirota to do his duty. This makes him nervous, wondering how he's supposed to do that in the middle of class. And that's when Takamine subtly points to the eraser in front of her and says he dropped it. Realizing her plan, he quickly gets up, pretends to pick up the eraser, and discreetly helps her put her underwear back on. Everything seems to go smoothly. He returns to his seat and continues with class as usual. However, after some time passes, he glances back at Takamine, and that's when he realizes her underwear still isn't pulled all the way up. Panic sets in as he wonders why she hasn't fixed it herself. Could she be doing this on purpose? After all, there's no way she hasn't noticed. At the same time, the teacher begins calling on students one by one to come up and collect their books. This makes Shirota even more nervous. He suspects that Takamine might actually want him to fix it for her. If he doesn't, and she's called next, everyone will see, and worse, she might pin the blame on him, claiming he forced her into the situation. He debates whether to step in, but then remembers the deal they made. Technically, he already fulfilled his part by putting her underwear on as instructed, so maybe he doesn't need to do anything more. But then, he remembers her words, that even for her, having someone see her underwear is embarrassing. Determined, Shirota makes up his mind. When the teacher calls Takamine's name, he quickly stands and walks up in her place, making an excuse that he misheard and picks up both his own book and Takamine's. This makes Takamine smile, realizing his intention. She then quietly tells him to put them on properly this time. Not wanting anyone to notice, Shirota uses his leg to push them up for her. Just as he's doing this, the teacher suddenly calls out to him again, making him panic. He ends up pushing too hard and accidentally touches a forbidden gate, causing Takamine to blush. After class, Shirota asks if she did all of that on purpose. Takamine then smiles and replies that she was just testing him to see what he was capable of. Frustrated, Shirota asks what she would have done if he hadn't helped her. Without hesitation, Takamine simply says she never thought about that because she believed in him. She then flips the question around, asking why he stepped in to help her when he didn't have to. After all, he had already fulfilled his part of the deal. Shirota blushes and admits that deep down, he just didn't want anyone else to see her underwear. Hearing this makes Takamine genuinely happy. The next day, the teacher tells Takamine to collect all the assignments from her classmates and bring them to his office. Some of the male students then quickly volunteer to help, while Shirota watches from afar and does nothing. This annoys Takamine, and she immediately takes off her underwear to rewind time. Shirota is confused at first, wondering why she did that, until he remembers his duty as her closet, which means he must always stay by her side, and this time, he also volunteers to help. Later, when the two are alone, Shirota quickly helps Takamine put her underwear back on, while she scolds him for not reacting sooner. Afterward, as they walk through the hallway, they are greeted by a bunch of students who happily volunteer to help Takamine. Shirota is impressed by how much respect and admiration everyone has for her. To his surprise, Takamine even knows all their names. After putting all the assignments in the office, Shirota asks Takamine if it ever gets tiring having everyone approach her wherever she goes. Takamine simply smiles and says she doesn't think of it that way at all. She sees it as a sign that she's doing a good job as the student council president. Curious, Shirota asks if she really knows the names and faces of every single student. After all, every student they encountered on the way, Takamine recognized by name. Takamine casually confirms that she does. She memorized all their names and faces on the day she was sworn in. To her, as the student council president, everyone knows her name and face, so if she didn't know theirs, it would feel like she had lost to them. This leaves Shirota stunned. He had thought Takamine was driven by a desire not to betray everyone's trust, but now he realizes the truth. Takamine simply refuses to lose. As they walk, Takamine also reveals that she didn't just memorize names and faces. She also memorized simple profiles of every single student here, including Shirota. She then starts teasing him, listing all his traits, how he's weak-willed, has little ambition, average at everything, and, worst of all, is a closet pervert who's so obsessed with Takamine's body that he secretly peeks at her while she's changing. Hearing this embarrasses Shirota, and he quickly denies it. Takamine then leans in and playfully tells him to look at her. However, Shirota refuses, saying he knows she probably wouldn't want him to. This irritates Takamine a little, and she tries to seduce him by saying, "What if I don't mind?" Unable to handle the situation, Shirota pushes her away, insisting that things like that should only happen if they're dating. This makes Takamine burst out laughing and tells him that she was just joking. Just as she walks away, Shirota accidentally slips and falls down the stairs. When he wakes up, he's already lying in the nurse's office with Takamine sitting beside him. Seeing him awake, Takamine breathes a sigh of relief and explains that after he fell, he lost consciousness and his injuries were pretty bad. So, she used her ability to turn back time to before the fall, but even after that, he still didn't wake up, so she carried him here. She then tells him to rest a little longer. Smirking, she adds that since he rejected her earlier, she'll have to update his profile a bit, now labeling him as a cowardly, fake gentleman virgin, or alternatively, an absurdly upstanding person. Hearing this makes Shirota feel a little happy. He then looks outside and sighs, noticing that classes are already over, which means it's time for his extra PE lesson. He complains to Takamine about how his PE teacher always leaves early for his club activities without staying until the end. It frustrates him because he still hasn't managed to get his long-distance running time under 30 minutes. Despite his usual lack of ambition, Shirota admits that he would like to be number one at least once in something. Knowing all of this, Takamine decides to cover for the absent PE teacher and supervise the class herself. She even gives Shirota some advice to help him finish his run within 30 minutes. However, even with her coaching, he still can't manage it. So, Takamine removes her underwear to activate her ability and turn back time, giving him another chance. This time, she sternly warns him to complete the run within 30 minutes no matter what. Her serious tone scares Shirota, but deep down, he knows it's still going to be impossible for him. As everyone starts running again, Takamine surprises Shirota by riding a bicycle ahead of the group, acting as the pace leader. This sends Shirota into a panic because since she just used her ability, she's not wearing any underwear right now, and everyone could easily see under her skirt. Not wanting anyone else to get a peek, Shirota has no choice but to run right behind her, using himself as a shield to block the view. Because of this, Shirota not only managed to finish his run within 30 minutes, but also got to the first place too. Later, after the class end, while Shirota helped Takamine put on her underwear, she asks him how does it feel to get the first place, which Shirota simply smile at, her saying it feel amazing. That night, Shirota accidentally brings Takamine's bag of underwear home with him, and then got a call from Takamine asking if he has her bag because she wants to go for a run but doesn't have any sports underwear as they were all in the bag. Shirota considers bringing the bag to her right away since her place isn't that far, but then he stops himself, wondering if this is just another one of her tests to see if he'll blindly follow her wishes like her servant. He thinks to himself that it's not really necessary to help this time. After all, she's at her home and she could just wear something else instead. Running over just to deliver the bag would only make him look like some errand boy. While he's thinking, Shirota suddenly receives a message from Takamine. In it, she says that since he didn't respond, she's given up on putting on any underwear before going for her run, but reassures him not to worry, as she's not texting while running. This message sends Shirota into a panic, terrified that something bad might happen to her. Meanwhile, Takamine is actually waiting for him at the park alone, planning to text him again to say she was just joking. However, before she can send it, she's surprised to see Shirota running toward her, carrying her bag of underwear. Seeing him, Takamine smiles happily and teases that it seems he's finally learned how to take action based on her wishes, just like a proper closet. But Shirota, out of breath, says he didn't come because of that. He simply couldn't stop worrying about her. Hearing this makes Takamine blush, and she thanks him sincerely for caring about her. The next day, during swimming class, Takamine impresses everyone with her speed, even beating Ue, the ace of the swim team. However, to Shirota's surprise, Takamine decides to turn back time and redo the race. This time, she wins again by doing the backstroke instead. Watching her swim, Shirota can't help but admire her beauty. Later, Takamine explains to Shirota that the reason she redid the race was because she wanted to win in a style that left more of an impression. She then asks him which style he prefers. Caught off guard, Shirota panics and can't answer. Judging by his reaction, Takamine smirks and calls him a pervert. Wanting to change the subject, Shirota asks how she was able to turn back time. After all, he thought she wasn't wearing any underwear. Smiling, Takamine reveals it was her bra. Later, Takamine takes Shirota to a lingerie shop and makes him pick out underwear for her. Embarrassed, Shirota grabs a random one, only to accidentally choose the worst one. Takamine just smiles and teases him even more. After a while, Shirota finally manages to pick his actual favorite for her. But instead of simply taking it, Takamine has him help her put it on. The shock is too much for Shirota, and he ends up fainting. Afterward, Takamine teases Shirota for getting too excited, and then asks him why he chose that underwear for her. He tells her it reminded him of the blue sky, and because Takamine is as unfathomable as the sea, he thought blue would suit her perfectly. Hearing this makes Takamine secretly smile and appreciate his answer, while Shirota wonders if she didn't like it. The next day, Shirota catches a cold. On his way home from school, Takamine shows up and helps him get back to his house. As soon as she enters his room, she immediately checks his laptop, looking for his holy folder. To her disappointment, she finds nothing. This makes Shirota mad, asking if she only came over to snoop. But Takamine explains that wasn't the reason at all. She genuinely came to help him get better. After all, if something happens to him, it would affect her life too. She then decides to make him something to eat, teasing that she'll cook while wearing nothing but an apron. Hearing this makes Shirota blush. He tells her to stop teasing him and to get out before she catches his cold. Realizing he has a point, Takamine suddenly removes her underwear to turn back time. This time, instead of spending it teasing him, she heads straight to the kitchen to prepare dinner. Once the food is ready, she tells him she'll be back to check on him after he finishes, saying she has a few things to clean up. As she leaves, Shirota quietly enjoys the food, still unable to believe how kind she's being to him. Afterward, just as he lies down to rest, Takamine comes back in and suddenly jumps onto the bed with him. She claims she's doing it to help keep his body warm. But then she notices something and then removes her bra to turn back time again. It turns out that she was worried she might smell bad, so she went back to before gym class, took it easy, and made sure to apply deodorant this time. This makes Shirota even more nervous, knowing that Takamine isn't wearing any underwear right now. Flustered, he tells her to stop teasing him and insists that he can sleep just fine on his own. Takamine then gently hugs him, assuring him that she's not teasing anymore. She quietly apologizes for going a bit too far earlier, especially considering his condition. Hearing this makes Shirota feel a little better, thinking maybe she really is worried about him. He then asks her why she's being so kind to him today. The question catches Takamine off guard, but before she can answer, Shirota has already fallen asleep. Later, on the way home, Takamine recalls her childhood. Back then, she had no friends and often felt incredibly lonely. But everything changed one day when she was feeding an abandoned black cat and met Shirota for the first time. The scene then shifts back to the present. Takamine lies on her bed, gently playing with that same black cat and murmurs to herself, "Does he really think I'd go this far for someone I don't care about?" If you come this far, please consider liking and subscribing for more videos like this. Thank you.